Hi kids. So just like when we were adding with 3-digit numbers, we're subtracting with 3-digit numbers, and we're going to use some of the same strategies. Last week we used an open number line to add. This week or today we're going to do an open number line to subtract 3-digit numbers, and if you think about that, it's the opposite. So just like when we did 1-digit numbers and 2-digit numbers, we're going to start at the opposite end. We're going to put our biggest number at the far right-hand side, so that as we subtract and our number gets smaller, we can be heading towards the left. So that's the way a number line works. So we're going to put our 471 way to the right. And now is when we look at the number that we're subtracting, and we use what we know about place value. We start breaking it down into the hundreds and the tens and the ones. So 224 is made up of 200, 20, and 4. And some form of that is going to be our jumps backwards. Same as before, same with adding, we need to make sure that they're labeled, and we need to make sure that the jumps that we make add up to 224. So let's start with the hundreds. I can do 471 minus 200. I can do minus 200. Because I can do that in my head. I can look at 400, I can take away 2, and I know that I will have 200, and I'll still have the 71. The tens and the ones don't change. If I wasn't sure about that, doing it in my head, I could do minus 100, but I feel all right with that. So I've done the hundreds, and then I'm going to move on to the tens. I have to take away 20. So let's say I can't do 70 minus 20 in my head. We'll break it down. We'll do 2 jumps of minus 10. So minus 10 would be 261. Just the tens place is going to move. And then another minus 10 would get me to 251. So it goes 70, 60, 50. I've done my tens, and now I need to take away 4. I only have 1, 1. So I'm going to need to do a little bit of regrouping. So I'm going to do it jump by jump. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one will be minus 1. And let's see how this goes. 251 minus 1 is 250. I need to take away 1 more. So if I did 50 minus 1, I know it would be 49. So I'm going to write 249. Minus 1 more, 248. Minus 1 more, 247. So that's going to be my final answer. I want you to remember when you're doing these, because there's a couple, at least 1 or 2 on your practice pages that will ask you to do this more than one way. So just like if you have 8 minus 3 equals 5, do you remember our fact families? You can state these numbers, because they're in a family, a different way. You can add them. You could do 3 plus 5 equals 8. And so sometimes it's going to ask you to do this 2 different ways. That can mean 2 different things. You can break your jumps differently. So if you wanted to do this a different way, you could break your 200 into 100 and another minus 100. Another way you can do is use addition to do subtraction. So if you wanted to try to do that, just like these numbers are all in the same fact family, the big triangle of fact family would be 471, 224, and 247. And so if you wanted to, you could use the same facts by saying 224 plus 247. And then add the plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, until you got to 7. So you can use your addition to solve the subtraction, or you can just do your jumps a different way. That's just, I think there's one or two that will ask you to do it 2 different ways. It's most important to me that you can do it one way, that you can just subtract, putting your biggest number to the right, and then breaking your number you're subtracting down and getting your final answer. If you can do it a second way, that's great. But if you can't, don't worry about it, okay? We have our hangout today at 1 o'clock, and then I will hang out for a while afterwards if anybody has any questions about the math or about your habitat or anything else that you're working on. All right, talk to you soon.